Live Life Being Adored, the art of celebrating everything there is in life, a podcast all about hosting, having, and attending amazing celebrations. Gathering matters, and you'll join me, award-winning event designer and publisher of Adore magazine, Kat Minks, as we delve into unique ways to have celebrations, why we have them, and the unique stories behind them, including places, people, themes, unique inspiration, meaningful events, and more. We touch on all kinds of celebrations and facets of them, from weddings, award shows, corporate gatherings, social events, kids' parties, birthdays, anniversaries, and the art of celebrating our gifts, purpose, and what we were created to do, which is gather. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Live Life Being Adored. I'm your host, Kat Minks, and I am an event planner designer of 18 years, and I publish and produce Adore magazine. Some of the things that I run into usually right around this time of year, especially because it's after wedding season and after like a big event season and after the holidays, and people start refocusing on their goals and they start thinking about what they want to do with their life and possibly make a career change. And some of that usually entails people questioning me about making the career change to being a wedding and event planner. And a lot of the time it's people that love hosting parties, love to be the hostess with the mostess, create, design, love interior design, love parties and events. And so they want to meld the two. Much was like my own passion. When I began Adore Productions, that was also something I was very interested in and wanted to combine all of what I knew into one business. So I'm going to be breaking down with you some insider tips as an event designer, wedding planner of years. And I'm going to be giving you some tips. If you are thinking about going into this career, these are the things that you need to keep in mind. So stay tuned. So do you feel like you're the hostess with the mostess? Well, I felt that way too. And that's why I wanted to get a career in event planning and design, and what that passion has carried me through all these years in my love for design and interior design and celebrations. And that is what also fueled my fire to start Adore magazine. But you have to start somewhere. And I know a lot of times, a lot of people start thinking around this time of year of making a career change, or if they're really young, it might be their first career. And weddings have always been kind of like a glamorized, I think, idea, wedding planners, from the movie The Wedding Planner, of course. And then just many times, a lot of people look at wedding planners and they're like, oh, that's such a cool job. That's so fun. You must have such a great time. So I'm going to be telling you some of the awesome things and some of the less awesome things and some truthful things about having your own event and wedding planning business. And so if you're thinking about starting your own business, I think it's really important to really take a look at, really learn. And, in the day and age of YouTube and people just being able to learn so much for free. Obviously, podcasts are a great way to do that, hence our podcast. Also, I think when it comes to events and weddings, the only real way that you're going to learn as much as somebody who, like me, has had years of experience is actually being in it. So I'm going to be breaking down with you, like I said, some of the things that I've learned being a business owner, being an event and wedding planner, and also some of the things that I did to gain all the knowledge that I have today and what I can share with you. So obviously today, like I said, is a lot different than when I got my start in wedding and event planning. But I, back when I got my start was like late 1999. I was actually doing makeup and wardrobe styling for TV, film, and photography. And I, you know, I had a passion for visual, but deep down, I kind of always loved the idea of being a wedding and event planner. And what was funny is before I even really made a final move to Los Angeles, I had researched a few wedding planners. There wasn't that much to research back then because there was not many. There certainly wasn't any in the Midwest, or not many in the Midwest at that time. Or a lot of them didn't have websites. It was just like the wedding planner at the country club. There wasn't like how it's grown to be today. It's not that old of an industry, really. There really was only a few main ones in the country at the time that I was looking at potentially doing this for my career. But I ended up researching somebody that I ended up working with once I decided to finally bite the bullet and open my business. I didn't open my business until 2004. And I actually started as I reached out to the planner that I had looked up years before when I lived in the Midwest. And at that time, she ran a internship program. And at that time, you had to pay to be part of her internship. So it was paid on the job education, basically. And how I got hooked up with her was not at first through this internship. She actually hired me as their makeup artist and stylist for one of their weddings. And so I, saw her team, and she ended up asking me if I would stay on a wedding and help. And so, because they were short-staffed. And I was like, sure, I could do that. Well, then that led to, hey, I'm doing this internship. Would you like to be a part of it? And so I kind of felt a little bit like, oh, her time is valuable. I should pay for that. Obviously, today's day and age, it's very common to pay for an internship, or to be paid for internships. But now, there's just not a lot of people that offer an internship on the job learning program. They might pay you an hourly to do some kind of menial job, that they don't really show you what to do or who their vendors are or anything like that. They're kind of just paying you to be a body, is what I see a lot of times today. But back then, it made sense to me. Also, keep in mind, this was like LA, early 2000s, and a lot of the places that have weddings or had weddings there were also film shooting locations. So that was one thing that if you were a planner in Los Angeles at that time, you had to know like which houses you could rent out for certain types of events. And you usually had to, they were private estates. We're talking like Malibu mansions and things. So you had to like learn that you had to have a rental company that could lay carpet over the carpet or existing floor because the owner doesn't want you to scratch it. Like there was a lot of things to be learned. And so I felt like it was very valuable. So something that you can do if you don't have a wedding coordination company or wedding coordinator that can take you on as a intern, and doesn't want to pay you to be an assistant if you have no experience, then something that you can do to just get started, like very start, is there event design and planning associations that offer certification courses. There's also some colleges that offer these certifications as well. And that's a great way just to get the very basic of event terminology and knowledge and, licensing and insurance and all those kinds of things that you need to be very privy to. But that's a great starting point. I would say if you can combine a certification course with some sort of on-the-job training, one of the very first things that I tell people and I wish that I had done sooner was when I moved back to the Midwest after having planned several events in Los Angeles, both corporate and wedding. So through doing that and kicking off my business and having momentum already, I was already planning big events. But then when I moved back to the Midwest, I had to like restart my business all over. So one of the ways that I restarted my business was I got very involved in working for other bigger companies in the hospitality industry. And some examples of ideas for you if you're thinking about getting into this career that are going to be very beneficial to you as a business owner is if you can work for a catering company or a hotel. In specifically, if you can work in their like event sales department and banquet area, that is a huge selling point and will give you so much knowledge when it comes to what good pieces of business are and what are not, and what some of the main meeting planners for larger companies. You'll be working with regular events all the time, so you have a lot of hands-on experience as well. I think it's great if you can work for a hotel that also offers catering, because then you can see like both of those things. Oftentimes when you work in a hotel, they will cross train you into different areas. And even if you can just do a part-time something, let them know your interests, let them know what you're looking to do. And that's a great way for you to start getting momentum and getting to know who some of the key meeting planners are in your area, some of the associations in your area, how a hotel works with event planners and meeting planners, how a caterer works, how food costing works. All of that is going to be something that will be beneficial to your business. And so I cannot stress enough how important it is to work in some sort of area other than event planning itself that an event planner would hire or utilize for their clients, so that you can get a full understanding of it. Maybe it's a florist. Maybe you go work for a florist and, for part-time building centerpieces for them. It's usually a turn and burn, like you are doing multiple items that all look the same if you're working for a florist that has a big wedding and event business. Other times, if you're working for a caterer, you might be doing service, you might be doing coordination. So like inquiry coordination, you're handling, like you're the face of the business and you're the first, you answer the phone and you're like, hey, I'm just putting you through to the salesperson, or I'm getting all your stuff set up for you. And you're just assisting the sales leads or something. So I definitely can't say enough great things about that kind of knowledge and how beneficial it will be for you to have in your career. And while you're doing it, you can be doing a few events on the side of your own on, some of your weekends off or whatever. And that really will help you get some momentum and knowledge in your business. One of the main things that I tell a lot of people is that you have to understand that if you are going into the event and wedding industry, it is not going to be the kind of career where you're going to have weekends and evenings off all the time. That's just not, if you're looking for a 9-to-5, it's not realistic to get involved in the event industry. And if you're planning on having a family, one of the things that was really a tough thing, and I'll be totally honest here when I say that I really wanted a family. I had my family later in my life. And one of the hardest things still, even though I wasn't like 40 when I had my first kid, but I felt like my career was just getting momentum. But I knew that I had to have a kid if I wanted to have one in that time frame. And I knew that I was going to have to take some steps back. And that was really hard for me in my career because I had to focus on my kids. And I think that I had a really interesting interview years back with an adored guest. And she said, when I asked her, how do you do all these things? And one of the key things was, I was like, do you think you can have it all? And her very truthful answer was, no, I don't think you can have it all. It's really hard. It's really hard to have an amazing, successful, blooming career where everybody is happy in your life and you're appeasing everyone, including yourself, and especially be in the events industry. Or entertainment industry. That's another one. Like, I knew it was funny because I made the switch from being in the film and photography and TV business into the events industry. And while it was a little bit better of a shift in hours, it still meant that my evenings and weekends were not free for a long time. And now I'm able to finally, guide that a little bit better. Sometimes when I'm producing an event, I am not with my family and it's an evening or a weekend, but in a lot of ways it feels like a little bit of a break. But keep in mind that if you are really looking to just start a family, the events industry is going to be a really tough one for you to be able to be a business owner in, or even work for somebody else in. So really keep that in mind. But if you're at this point in your life where you're not quite planning a family, or you're just kind of getting over that hump and your kids are getting to be school age, it's a great time to get into this type of career. But like I said, note, evenings and weekends are not always going to be free for you. So I want to kind of back up a little bit and go into when I said, like, looking at doing a certification course, or and how to get involved in getting knowledge about having the ins and outs of being a wedding and event planner. One of the things that I always tell every business owner that I know, whether they be going into the events industry or any other business, is don't go crazy buying a bunch of stuff that you don't necessarily know that you're going to have revenue to pay for, at least in your first 5 years. One of the biggest mistakes that I see people make when they are opening a business, or they're reframing their business, or trying to start a business, is that they say, oh, I'm going to go buy the best POS system, and I'm going to buy the best software, client management software. And they subscribe to all of these different things. And before you know it, they are in debt, and they have to go back to a 9-to-5 job just to pay for the debt that they racked up for their business. That's a tough pill to swallow. And I want you to know that as an event planner, as somebody who pulled my business back when I had my kids, there were sacrifices that I had to make when I was starting. I kind of had to restart my business after I had my kids. But the thing that I learned is that there is always ways, if you really put your mind to it, to do the things that you need to do that are free or low cost as an entrepreneur or business owner. Some of that being, there's a huge push right now for people to get people to manage their social media. When you are just starting out your business, learn how to do it yourself. I think that one of the biggest walls that people have a hard time overcoming when it comes to social media and thinking that they can't do it on their own is they overthink how they look doing certain things. And I think that they miss that people want to know that you're a real human, and they want that personal connection. They want to see your life. They want to know things about you. And that's what makes them feel connected and want to purchase your services or products. And if you're in events and weddings, that's a lot of times celebrations are very personal. And so you showing the ins and outs of your business and having an audience that grows with you is very important. So at first, don't just throw your money out of the window and rack up a bunch of debt in softwares and VA and all those kinds of things. The business will come. You just need to be strategic and push forward on your own. And don't go crazy buying all these fancy things. Honestly, you can do invoicing and a lot of stuff through Google and Canva, the free version of Canva. You can do so much with a lot of free or low cost items to get the tools for your business. And while, yes, it's great because there's softwares out there that are, make it all very easy for you to show your clients a Pinterest board or without using Pinterest, or send your clients an automated invoice system and all those kinds of things. I think as long as you have a decent, 5 or 6 page website that shows like a few things, talks about your services, maybe not price, but, talks about your services. As long as you have some few basics that you pay for, don't go crazy buying everything right out of the gate. Don't go buy an office space the second you decide you want to be an event planner. Office out of your house for a little bit. Find your key, 3 places that you meet with people. A lot of times people don't even want to meet anymore. They only want to do Zoom or phone calls. It's very much anti-communicative society now. So definitely don't go crazy buying all the bells and whistles right out of the gate. One of the things that I tell people also as a part of your research and learning in event planning and design is there are several event associations. Like I said, some of them offer certifications like MPI, Meeting Planners International, or ILEA, International Live Events Association. And they offer certification courses in some things, but they also offer regular monthly meetings. And just going to those meetings and listening and meeting people can really open up your eyes and definitely be a great networking opportunity for you. A lot of times the meetings are held in new venues or venues that host a lot of events. So that also is a great way for you to get to know what's in the area in terms of event spaces and how they work and who runs them. So we've covered a don't in the wedding and event planning industry and getting into it as a planner or designer. And I have one other don't do if you're trying to get your feet wet or start a business or even gain knowledge and insight in the wedding and event industry. And that don't do is don't undercut and try to sell yourself as a pro when you're not and you're just starting out. Be very honest about it, and also make sure that you are valuing your time. Just like anybody else's time, your time is valuable too. And I think something that has always been an issue in the industry, and I don't think it will ever not be an issue, is the fact that, of course, brides or clients want to get the most money for their dollar. Where I think it starts to hurt somebody new in the industry is when you upset a lot of people in your community or in the area that you're in when you undervalue that service as a whole. So an example of this is you might be looking on some Facebook groups. There's lots of wedding groups out there that a lot of people and brides are already a part of from planning their wedding and decide that they want to open their own event planning company. And something that's very common that a lot of professional wedding and event professionals will see is that these newer event planners or wedding planners or people looking to get into the industry just copy and paste a pro's website and their services and then charge like half or even less than half for the same service. And that it hurts nobody but you if you do that. The reason being is if you start your business that way, it's going to be a very slow pattern to growth for you. The second reason being is you're undervaluing the industry as a whole. It's kind of like if somebody gets paid a certain amount in a corporate job as a VP, and then somebody else says, well, I will do that for a quarter of what that VP, which happens, but probably not to that degree. And there's probably not a whole lot of industries that this happens in as much as it does in event and wedding planning. And I think it's because so much of it depends on being self-taught, and you don't necessarily need high accreditations for somebody to hire you if you can talk the talk. But what happens on the event day or in that planning process when you don't know the answers to every single question, or when it shows up on the event day that you really don't know how to manage your time. And that will show through and through. And then all of a sudden you'll end up with bad reviews and all this kind of stuff. So it's very important that, number one, you don't devalue the industry as a whole. Number two, value your time and price accordingly, and price based on your experience, price based on, and that it doesn't mean that if you have very little experience, you can do it for free or for $5. It means that you should price your time, value your time, and and decide what that price will be based on the industry and the area that you're in. So often, because I do event design as well, I will see a lot of people post on design groups, hey, what should I charge for this setup? And the answer to that question is always your labor, what you would pay yourself for labor, times the time that it took to create that item and how much it costs, times 3 to 5. So it's not times 2 anymore like it used to be. It's times 3 to 5. So decide what that price will be and figure it out according to that math. If you are not providing any actual products, really be careful about how you price your services. Look at what the general wage would be for somebody starting out. If you were to work as a meeting planner for a corporation, if you were to be a coordinator and an assistant coordinator and admin, and kind of price based on that. Look at industry salaries and hourly wages before you just decide, I need to learn all this, and so I'm just going to do my first few for free. I don't think that that's necessarily fair, unless you're, interning under another planner or whatever. But just make sure that you don't want to upset anybody in the industry as well. Most communities in the event world, it's a very close-knit community, and it takes a long time to gain status and to build your portfolio and be understood, and your style to be understood and sought after. And so for that reason, it's really important that you're never undervaluing yourself. So because Adore loves to be teachers and educators, me especially, I put together a while back a business design workshop. So the business design workshop kind of was an offshoot of our initial Brides on the Go workshop, which is a DIY wedding planning workshop for couples that we do in group classes. And it's to help couples get a better understanding, hopefully save some time and money when they are just getting out of the gate and planning their wedding. so often. And the reason why I did this podcast too was because a lot of people that plan their own wedding find it so rewarding and enjoyable that they want to look into it for a career change or for a career. And so I created the business design workshop. As a magazine publisher and somebody who's been in the hospitality and event industry for so long, I started working with hospitality companies and consulting with their marketing and their visual processes. And so I kind of started taking on more and more other clients. And some of those clients actually include other planners or other people that want to get into event planning or have tried to see the behind the scenes of it. So for that reason, I created the business design workshop. You can access it at Adore Productions website. So adore-productions.com/business-design-workshop is how you're going to find out about that particular workshop. And it's for anyone that's looking to be an event or wedding planner, or anyone that has like a creative company or someone in hospitality. So this might even be a great course too for if you're thinking about opening a venue too. And we're doing another podcast about that coming up. So you'll definitely want to pay attention for that. But this is a fantastic course. I kind of give my more in depth of my background and what I know. This podcast just kind of touched on that, but I love to work with people that are interested in the events industry, and I like to give them a real life look about what it's about. Tell all the mistakes that I learned that I am ready to share with you and to help you on your journey in finding your ideal customer. And so with that said, if you are interested to potentially take a look at that course, I hope you do. I love working with people that are just getting their feet wet in this industry and starting out, and helping to mold that journey for somebody else is just as exciting, I think, as some of the events that I've actually planned and clients that I've worked with. So with that said, I hope that you enjoyed this edition of Live Life Being Adored. It's a lot more focused on, the behind the scenes. I know that, and not all of our podcasts are about behind the scenes work. But I think that Adore appeals to people that love to be the hostess with the mostess. And oftentimes you always look for something in your life to do on a regular basis that you love. And if you can make money doing it, that's awesome. So that's how I got to be where I found my purpose. And that is in the events and hospitality and marketing industry. So I hope that you enjoyed this podcast. I hope that you live life being adored. And until next time, see you then. Bye-bye. So I hope that you get a chance to check out the Adore Productions website. That's adore-productions.com. And I hope that you subscribe to our podcast or our YouTube channel for more great content regarding hospitality, events, hosting, and celebrating everything there is to celebrate in life. I, again, am Kat Minks, and I can't wait to hear from you guys. Tell us your feedback about the podcasts and about the magazine. And if you need services, of course, look for Adore Productions. We offer rental decor options, custom options, consulting, marketing. We're kind of a all-around helping people celebrate kind of company. So I hope to hear from you all. I hope that you subscribe to our podcast and our channel. And until next time, live life being adored.